There's no single woman above 30 who is happy being single. No matter how you pretend to be, deep down, you want a man. Curious what the gentleman gonna say first, man. Do you think that's a true statement, Luis? There's no single woman above 30 who is happy being single.
I mean, I think that there are very far and few women who are actually happy being single above 30. I think there's a larger cohort who's rather having a difficult time, being single because obviously the holidays are approaching. You have those family times, right? Obviously, you just got through the summer going to those family reunions, barbecues, and people being outside and they're wondering, where's your significant other? Where's your person? Where's that individual that you spend quality time with and they're not really around? So you always have family and close friends to always remind you, why are you single?
Okay.
And that also adds a certain level of pressure in itself.
All right. I'm gonna get your opinion on this. Clout Jones. There's no single woman above 30 who is happy being single. You agree with that?
Um, I think it's a very nuanced question, but I think it's possible that they're over 30 that are single. But yeah, like Luis said, I do think that's probably on the minority scale, not on the majority scale.
All right. I'm gonna go to the ladies then, since we do have two lovely ladies on the panel. What are you guys' thoughts about that statement? Is it true? For women that are over 30, are they happy?
Well, as a woman over 30 that's single, I'm happy. I don't think I think there are times where I have low moments, but they're not necessarily because I'm single. I think um there's no such thing as just like finding a relationship and then that making you happy. Like life is, like you said, there is definitely nuanced, and there's so many other things going on in life other than having a man to be up under. So, and I would say I know more women than probably a lot of men do. Some of them are married and some of them are single, and I don't really see a huge um, gap in contentment between the two at all. So I guess I'm saying it's false. It's a stretch for sure to say most.
I'm gonna go to you, Kelly. What are your thoughts about that? You think it's true? Women over the age of 30 are unhappy. Hold on, you on mute. Let me unmute you. There you go. Uh,
I think there are a lot of women over 30 who are happy, whether they've been married and divorced, whether they never got married, whether they never had kids. I think there are women that are happy, and I think that's because they'll for sorry, they are whole alone, right? They feel complete alone because maybe their career fills them up, maybe their family fills them up. Um, but I think that's such a narrow-minded statement to say. Like, let me go over it. There's no single women above 30 who is happy being single, no matter how you pretend to be. Deep down, you want a man. Some people have been in relationships with men who have hurt them and they don't want to be hurt again. Same thing with men. Um, so no, I think women who don't center their lives around men can be happy without a man. That doesn't mean that they don't appreciate human contact or that they wouldn't appreciate a relationship. But I can't agree with that 100%.
I mean, one of the things that I understand, like another person isn't going to fulfill you, right? You need to be whole yourself, and you need to be able to fulfill yourself, right? You need to be, you need to be able to make yourself happy. Someone coming into your life isn't going to make you happy necessarily. They'll bring a level of excitement, a level of enjoyment, especially with conversations and things that you have in common. And honestly, ultimately, this whole thing boils down to is about sharing quality times and quality moments in this thing that we call life. You know, that's really what it's about. You know,
Correct.
having somebody there that is your, excuse me, having somebody is there who's a rock and that you could depend on and that you can lean on and that you can have conversations with. At times, to Alicia's point, you come home after a long day and it's probably stressful. Somebody cut you off, you probably got into an accident, whatever the case may be. Coming home, knowing somebody is there to share that experience about what happened through your day, and knowing that they're there to listen to you and they're there to pour into you, and that they have your best interest at heart, you can't beat that. There's only so much, quote unquote, being alone, could only fulfill. And yes, you have your community of people, whether that's your sisters, whether that's your close friends, support group, whatever the case may be. But that level of intimacy and conversation with that significant other, goes much more further. And it feels like you're building a bond that is worth fighting for much well worth pouring into.
Companionship.
I think with everything you said, yes, right? That sounds great. I wouldn't even say that that's the case for people in relationships right now. Like, I don't know, like that's an idealistic perspective of a relationship and having someone to come home to and all of that. I think it's probably a lot more difficult for people in relationships, especially like communication is like probably the number one thing that breaks people up. And I think though it would be nice, I don't think realistically like that is something that you'll automatically have just because you have a mate. But also, there are some people that don't want to be bothered after a long day. Like, who's to say that there's no validity in that? Like, being able to come home and not have to hear nobody's mouth, not have to cook for nobody, being able to decompress alone without being asked what's wrong is very, very peaceful. Um, but I guess that would be relative to who you ask. For me personally, yes, I would love somebody to come home to confide in and all of those other things. But there's so much more that goes into a healthy relationship. Who's to say that we're even on good terms that day? Like,
Yeah, but you know what is so interesting? We can make the argument that today we're more interconnected than ever before in history, in terms of how we communicate, whether it's through Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, video calls, etc. But yet we are still so disconnected from one another, right? And you brought up communication, and I wonder why that is. Why is there such a great breakdown in communication? You know, like it can't be that difficult that we've somehow became so really good at communicating with one another for decades and decades on, and then we get to this sort of pivotal moment in our modern age, and then all of a sudden the communication just suffers.
What I think it is that in becoming more connected with the world around us, I think people have become more disconnected with themselves. So the inability to communicate is coming from the fact that they don't even know themselves. They don't know what their desires, what their wants are. They don't know how they would want something communicated to them. They haven't thought of a scenario or even have time to ponder on it, because everybody's always so busy being connected kind of to like a hive mind. It's something happening on Instagram, there's something happening on YouTube, there's something happening on Facebook, there's something happening in the group chat, there's something happening at work around them. And I think just being so interconnected with everyone else, it's hard to even form a solid opinion, like, or even form a solid idea on your own, because everywhere you are, you're constantly being bombarded by someone else's perspective. So I think it's less that we're more connected. I mean, less that we like don't know how to connect with each other. I think we don't know how to disconnect. And like we're at a point now where it's like, all right, even when I think about my parents growing up, my mother always tells me that during the day, her and my dad didn't talk because cell phones weren't a thing. So they didn't talk. They weren't thinking. They might have been thinking about each other, but the idea of reaching out to communicate to one another during the day wasn't even something they thought about unless there was an emergency. Whereas today you have people who will end a relationship because you didn't talk to them today. You get what I'm saying? Like, meaning like they'll be like, oh wow, you didn't text me today. You clearly don't have any interest in this relationship, or you're clearly not putting in effort. And it's like, now it's almost become a crime to retreat to yourself. Like I was watching one of the episodes from the other night, and someone was talking, the guy was talking, it was a couple, and what they were talking about doesn't matter, but I guess he had a feeling about something and he didn't respond. He didn't tell her right away. Maybe it took a little time before his feelings came out. And they were like saying how that's so selfish of him. And I'm like, what kind of world are we living in where a person doesn't even, it's not even okay to take time away to process your feelings and thoughts? And I think that's a consequence of how interconnected we are. We don't even respect people's personal space. Like, how could you not post the pictures? How could you like that's weird that you're not posting the pictures. How are you not sharing your thoughts? And it's like, you know, I think that's where we're lost at. People need a little bit more space to be able to connect with themselves.